What's going on, party people? Here we are again with another edition of DJ to DJ. I'm your man, DJ Fernando G, and today I have my good friend, Aaron Traylor on board. What's up, brother? How are you?
We can officially say that. Sometimes we
Okay.
say that too loosely, like friend. Hey, it's my
Yeah.
buddy, my bro.
Right,
No,
right.
we're friends, man.
We
We've
are
actually
actual friends. We chat,
we've
we talk,
bonded.
we work together. We definitely hit it off. We met at Mobile B. What year was that? That was what, 2 years ago?
It was 2018,
2018?
and you know how those conversations go at a club. It's like, hey, man, we got to work together. We got to
Right?
link up. I got this boy. And I'm like, so when you first came up to me and you said, hey, I got this idea for a radio mix show here in Vegas, I was like, yeah, hey, here's my phone number. Next thing you know, I
We're,
mean,
we're on it. We're making it happen.
you're a man of your word.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that I try to keep. I like to try to keep my word. It took a little
Yeah.
while though because we were going through transitions at the radio station, and there was a lot of stuff going on because they were changing program directors, and so some of them were like yes, no, but we need club business, we need this, we need that. So it all happened, but let's go
Sure
back.
did.
So you and I, we met at what was the PVDJ takeover.
Hmm.
And I'll never forget. It was funny because the Bill Jacob, another friend of ours,
Yeah.
started sending us some creative stuff and sending everybody's picture and what everybody was doing. And so you had this real cool picture where you're just kind of like sitting there, styling, you're all dressed in black, and I'm all like, hey, Aaron looks cool, man, and it's a cool picture and stuff. And I'll never forget when we arrived in Las Vegas, Bill says, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to meet up for breakfast to talk over about what's going to happen with the PVDJ takeover. And this was basically DJs that had submitted mixes um, online, everything through Facebook, and we got selected. And so I was one of those persons. Aaron was one of those persons. DJ Jess, Nate, Henry Race, all these great DJs from
Still friends
different
to this
states.
day too. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so I arrived early. I think I was the first one there. I was across the street at Hooters, so I walked over. I don't know where everybody else was staying at, and it was at the Tropicana. So I remember just sitting there waiting, and I'm at the edge there, and then all of a sudden I look up and I said, "Man," I said, "that guy's tall." And I realized that it's you. You're
Yeah.
literally, your cap was like this, just barely scraping the ceiling. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize because your picture, you're sitting there, and I'm like, it's
Mhm.
a cool pic, but I through that picture you
Right.
would not realize that you are that tall. So how tall are you again?
Well, it's the reason why I wear black. I gotta, blend in a little bit. I'm 6'10", and I wear a hat to cover the scars from the ceiling fans. I mean, there's a reason why I wear what I wear.
You are
No,
by
I remember
far.
that vividly. We were all sitting there
Yeah,
having just some pastries that morning and getting
yeah,
amped up. This was an opportunity for a person on any point of the globe to come and perform in Las Vegas, and that's why this PBDJ takeover was so important to you and I, because we could
yeah,
finally say that we had a chance to play in Vegas, and from that point on, we continued to be invited to
yeah,
perform.
yeah.
If it wasn't for that moment, I mean, honestly, looking back, that was a pretty important time in my life and yours.
Yes.
Were it not for this, I never would have met Bill. I never would have received the notoriety, had a chance to perform at the Next Mobile DJ performances,
Hmm.
and then meet Joe Bunn. I mean, everything all just kind of
Yeah,
started
it
there.
trickled from there. It was awesome. It was amazing because like we were talking about Nate Nelson, Jessica, Henry. I mean,
Hmm.
just we just kind of like all of us. We just kind of hooked up, and I remember taking pictures there when we went to do the walkthrough at the club, and just really getting to know each other. I mean, we had a great conversation with Jessica after one of the shows. We went to the little bar right there at the Tropicana. We were just hanging out, just talking. She was telling me about her husband. I was telling her about my wife and about our kids and this and that. Just talking shop. And it was. I think we were there till like about maybe like almost 2 in the morning, just chatting
Oh yeah.
away. You know, and it was just awesome just to get to know people from the different states and stuff, and just amazing DJs, so talented.
Hmm.
um your performance that you did when you were trying out to be the next Mobile Beat on stage DJ, that was phenomenal, bro. You put on
Wow.
seriously, man. I mean, I was torn between, because it was you, Nate Nelson, and Henry Race, people that I come to admire and respect in a very short period of time. So I was kind of torn between you guys. And right. and I was kind of like, I said, you and I had already been talking a little bit more than Nate and Nelson and Henry and I. So you and I had kind of already started our friendship, and I was kind of torn between all you guys. But when I saw you perform that night, I was just like, oh, this guy's killing it. He's on fire, and it was just like a sick set, man. You just nailed it.
It wasn't anything special. I recall the tracks that I played during that time, and if I remember, it was a 90s throwback night of some sort. We were doing some sort of it
was a flashback event.
An homage to, the classics. Yeah. And there's those times when you see an opportunity. I mean, literally 20 minutes before I got on stage, I was sitting there trying to put my crates together, trying to figure out what I was going to play, thinking I was going to have to go this direction or this direction. And it really depended on that DJ who performed before me.
Right.
And there was a lot of great talent on stage. And then you could tell that the energy was kind of starting to drain. People were just not as interested. So I thought, okay, I'm going to not be as experimental with this one. I'm going to go straight to the classics, the ones that everybody knows, even though DJs have heard it a million times. I guess I did it in a way that got everybody's attention. I would have never, honestly, I was really going to play a throwback to old EDM techno.
Really?
I was going to do all the movement or LA style or style. I was really going to go that direct. I had that crate ready to go, but when I saw the energy going down, and the DJ before me, I don't know what his name was. All due respect to him, he was going that route. He was going more experimental, bringing back classics that no one had. And I said, okay, I'm not going to go down that path. I'm going to switch it up, and came right in with stuff that everybody knew. But you just know that moment. There's that. You choose your own adventure. Which way am I going to go? And I just decided, and somehow it worked. And I think from that point on, it really got the buzz out.
You were on fire, because I remember seeing you, and I remember you just started, and you have this style where you're dancing and you're into it. And as you got into it and the people started to react to you, the dance floor just all of a sudden started getting packed. And you were just like, boom, 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 boom. Just, and I was like, dude. And then when I look up at you and you were just like, boom, boom, you were totally in the zone. And I was like, wow, man. I mean, everybody was blown away. I mean, I remember people saying, just pointing at you, you're awesome, you're amazing.
And that's a whole room of DJs too. I walked out of there thinking, is this a dream? I never would have expected that from. I mean, you got to admit, that's the most critical crowd you could ever try to impress.
I mean, now, the night before, I spun the night before, and I wasn't in the competition. I was like, I don't even want to try out. I said, I just want to do the set, and that's it.
Sure.
And Bill's like, he's all like, I want you to do an 80s thing, because it was a whole thing from the 70s, 80s, 90s. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll have fun with it. And I'm an 80s guy. I love 80s stuff. So I said, I want to re-edit some stuff. And that's when I started doing re-edits again and reworks, and because I wanted to come up with something fun. And the next day, like I said, you were just fire. You nailed it. You
I
nailed
appreciate
it,
that.
dude. So congratulations.
That's a memory that will stay with me forever. Thank you. And again, if it wasn't for that particular visit to Vegas, you and I wouldn't be talking 2 years later. I mean, just look at all this. It's incredible.
So let's go back. Let's go back even further. Let's talk about you and when you discovered DJing and how it all came about, man.
I don't know if there were any low-income schools in your neighborhood, but there were these
I was in a
workshops.
low-income school.
Okay, so you've seen, like, sometimes they have these workshops where they allow anybody with any kind of income to come in and get their hands dirty in things like mechanics or home ec or things like that. My little school had a 50-watt radio station inside. And mind you, this was back in 19, oh gosh, I don't want to age myself too much. Let's just say a long time ago. They had this small little broadcast station. It probably went out to the parking lot. And my friend was there and said, dude, you come check out all these cool toys. And he'd be hosting a radio show and playing on vinyl records. And he said, no, that's not what's cool, but come over here and take a look at this. And he popped open a cassette and he dropped it in. He's like, I put this together on a reel-to-reel. If you remember those big spindles, you have to kind of thread through. He said he made this with reel-to-reel, pushed play on it, and I still know the track list to this day. It was Snaps the Power, into Gonna Make You Sweat, into Good Vibration, into I think it was Black Box, Strike It Up.
Strike It Up. Okay.
But the way he did it was, it was the very first time I'd ever heard of songs that blended together. I'd never heard of that concept before, and was never at all enthralled by it because I never saw an actual demonstration of it. But this was, about as close as you could get to like those MTV jock jams back in the day, where it's just medleys put together. And I said, how did you do this? How did you? And that's when he pulled the cassette out and gave it to me, and he said, if you want to learn, I'll show you someday. But I took that cassette, and at that point, I was living in Washington State, and my mom and my stepdad had moved to Montana State. And so I had this moment in time where I was like, am I going to live here with my dad, or am I going to go back to Montana with my mom and stepdad? And I just chose to move out to Montana State. But I had that cassette with me the whole time. And I never got the walkthrough of how he did it. He never really truly showed me. But I would much rather have had it this way. Having that cassette and listening to it over and over again, burning out the tape because it was just, rewound constantly. Like, how did he do this? And of course, you're in Montana, beautiful state, but a lot of hold on, nothing. The nearest Radio Shack's maybe 200 miles. So I had to figure this out on my own. And all the while, I started, realizing that maybe if you use turntables, this is going to work. And so I remember having that conversation with my mom, and this was, she was separated with my dad at the time. This was the first time I actually got them on the phone together, kind of like that Freaky Friday trying to get the parents back. I just wanted to get them on a phone call together. So I got a 3-way conversation with my mom and dad for the first time in years. And I said, guys, my birthday's coming up, and I want a pair of turntables. And they're like, well, what, to play music, to listen to music? And I was like, yeah, well, no, kind of. I want a DJ. And at that moment, there was the longest pause.
I had that
so
too.
Could we just get you one turntable? No, Mom, I have to have 2 turntables. And then you heard this exasperated sigh from my dad on the other line. Son, this is not a good investment. This is more than anything a hobby. It's a fad that'll go away. And I just don't think we can do this right now. And ultimately they, turned down the idea. And so I did whatever it took. I mowed lawns. I, did whatever I could do to save as much money as I could to get the Technique 1200 turntables. Sweet. And from that point on, that's where the mixing all started. That's how I was starting to get my practice in. From that point on, I started to realize that, once I decided to move back in with my dad back in Washington State, that's when I was introduced to the radio angle of it. And I told myself at a very early age, I said, if I'm going to be a DJ, I'm going to be all types of DJs, because there's wedding DJs. There's club DJs. There's radio DJs. I wanted to be that guy who wore headphones 20 hours a day.
There you go.
And wanted to learn all about it. And so I remember having that conversation with my dad again of like, hey, I'm going to be a radio DJ. I'm going to go apply for radio gigs. And this is when I was kind of teetering between that and college. And again, the conversation with my dad, the exasperated sigh.
Son.
These were his exact words. He said, son, you're never going to make it on your personality alone. And he shot down my idea. 15 years later, I win the award for best radio personality in the state of Montana.
Nice.
And I mailed that award back to my dad. I said,
there you go.
Boom.
in your
It felt
face.
so good. Yeah, it felt so good. It felt so
Yep,
good. So
yep.
that, in essence, is how it all began.
It's funny because you and I have a very similar story. Um, the the difference is that my father worked in radio since before I was born. Um, Amazing talent. He was journalist. He was more into news, not so much the music aspect of it. He won 12 Golden Mike Awards, one
Wow.
that you can see back there somewhere. And
Yeah, there it is. I see it.
yeah. And I grew up around radio. However, when I came to him and the same thing, and I said, I want to learn how to DJ because my brother Marco was the one that introduced me to DJing. And the day came that I wanted to ask for some turntables, and exact same thing, Dad. Is there any way that you can hook me up and buy me the turntables, and so I can start my little DJ business? And he just looked at me, same type of silence, but he says, if you want them, you got to pay for them. Go get a job. I had just turned 16. Okay. Now, I had been messing around with my brother's turntables. My brother had already long moved out. And I'd been messing around with those turntables and going to friends' houses since I was 9. Okay. Messing around. But I wanted my own stuff. At the time, I had just turned 16, and he's out, go get a job. And I did that. I worked at a place called Unclaimed Freight, delivering furniture. And every Saturday, I would walk up 2 blocks away from where I was working at and put my little money down. They weren't even Techniques 1200s, bro. They were realistic turntables, okay? Belt driven.
With a little dial.
With a little dial, that's right. A little realistic mixer. Didn't have the crossfaders. It just had the up and down.
God, yeah.
And that's how I got my first DJ setup. So, how would you say that your radio experience has helped you out with your DJ business? Not so much your DJ skills, but the business aspect of it.
Certainly. Yeah. If anybody owns a multi-op, and for those that don't know the term, that's when you go into business as a mobile DJ and start hiring on other DJs, you quickly realize that a lot of them are very ambitious when it comes to making the music sound good, how well their performance is, how fast they can move on the fader. But one thing that we really don't focus on nearly as much is what happens when you're on the microphone. I mean, yes, you could be playing Billie Jean into, Justin Timberlake flawlessly, but did you just actually butcher the bridesmaid's last name? Right. Or did you mumble through the grand introduction? That to me was very important. And even still to this day, I'm on the radio 24/7, constantly talking, and yet when I'm in front of a live scenario and I'm talking to people I haven't met in person, and I'm just brand new to that venue, and clients and planners are looking at me, and I've got the microphone, I still get those butterflies, man. Oh, yeah. I still will not. I still cannot quite grasp the mastering emceeing, because it's a constantly moving target. You're always evolving. But I think radio for sure has taught me one thing, and that is to be concise. And especially now with people's attention spans dwindling fast, we're talking less and less. Yes. So it's really about the economy of verbiage. How little of a sentence can you say to get a long drawn out point across? Exactly. It's like Twitter, really. Can you talk in 140 characters or less? And that's what I've really been. Even though I'm really talking a lot today, right? If I was on the radio, it'd be, I'd say this thing in less than 15 seconds.
Exactly. It's wild. Now, gosh, a question came across my head as we were talking right now. Okay, here we go. How did you get into radio? What was the first steps that you took to get into radio, to get your first job?
My dad was married to a new lady at the time who had a daughter, and she was a little bit older than me, but she was super cool. And I hung out with her quite a bit, and she introduced me to her boyfriend. She said, "Hey, let's go to the county fair. He's down there doing a radio show." And this was around the same time that I was enamored with that cassette that kid had given me. So it all kind of came around the same point. And he was working for the boyfriend was working for a rock radio station. And when I walked into the carnival, I went past the llama barn and the, grand prize pumpkins and all that with the ribbons. And there he was, just sitting there at this table with this box and a microphone and a huge antenna that pointed towards the tower on the mountain.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'm like, okay, what is he doing here? And all of a sudden, everyone gets really quiet. Then he'd turn on the microphone. And next thing you know, he's talking to everybody in the city and the audience in front of him. And I'm like, what is this? This is awesome. And of course, he became my best friend. And I still talk to him to this day. This cool. The DJ is long retired, but he's always kind of living vicariously through me because he knows that, I was really enamored with his talent and more than anything, just the technology. And so again, back to wanting to wear headphones all day, 24/7. It was just one more thing I had to learn. And it's crazy to think how it's all evolved. I mean, just the Marty, the old school radio DJs know what a Marty is. Yeah. Now it's been replaced by a cell phone and email. I mean, it's crazy to think how it's going to evolve further. Yeah.
That's funny that you mentioned the Marty. I was working at Power 106 when we used that sucker. I mean, and it was, we went through all these different phases from having this big old dish on top of our vans to just having a little antenna and connecting this little Marty unit where you could record the stuff and then pop it into this thing and then hit a switch and it would transmit to the station. They would record it on reel to reel, and it's just how crazy how everything evolved to ISDN to just all these different technologies that has evolved. And now cell phone,
it's all right there. It's funny because me and my girlfriend, we were walking through a bookstore, and it was not just a bookstore, but it had DVDs and it had old Game Boy games. It was just kind of like a pawn shop for old collectibles. And I thought to myself, it's amazing to think that everything in this Costco-sized warehouse of a bookstore, it's all stored on my phone.
Right.
It just still to this day, I'm blown away.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So you did something now, and I gotta be honest, I didn't see the full video, but I saw you speaking at one of the TED seminars, and I started getting just the beginning of it before something happened. I had to shut it down and stuff, and I hadn't gotten back to it. Explain to me what you were talking about at that seminar.
Oh, so the TED Talk, yeah. Back in Montana State, I bounced between Washington and Montana during my high school and college years, and then I ended up getting a program director position back in Montana State, where I gained a small following. And from that point on, I just made some good friends in the industry. And I heard that TEDx was coming through town, and they were trying to get some guest panelists on. And they said, hey, Aaron, we know that you've got a little bit of a following here in town. Would you care to talk? I'm like, I have no idea what TED Talks is. I know that it's big, but yeah, I want in. And they said, well, great. What's your topic? And I said, I don't know. They said, okay, just come up with something and, come back to us. And over that duration of the program directorship, I had zero budget. I didn't have any money to buy bumper stickers or a radio station vehicle. So all I could rely on to get people to A, listen to my radio show, and B, attend my nightclub events was to use social media. And this was brand new at the time. Facebook had just released to the public. It was originally just for college kids. Right. And so I jumped on that. And Twitter, of course, was doing its thing. And I figured a way to game the system. And the whole point of the TED Talk was how I hacked the entire social network of Montana State. If you can imagine, at one point I had 10 PCs sitting inside this room in my house where I built these scripts to add or remove friends in the entire state of Montana. So it's kind of like a data miner in a way, where I was trying to get as many friends into dummy accounts or my own personal account just so I could send them a party flyer. That's all it was. The whole purpose wasn't anything evil. I wasn't trying to hack the system, but I just said, I want to, this was the best way to promote. And at one point I decided, that I was going to go full throttle with it. And I had close to 80% of the entire Facebook community at my disposal in the entire state of Montana.
Wow.
To give you an idea, like news stations, newspapers, radio stations, I mean, they all failed in comparison, I mean, to my population of friends and followers. I mean, it was just out of the box extraordinary. I could push one button and send it out to something like, oh gosh, I think at one point I had like 330,000 followers, which again is back then was
That's huge.
enormous. And not just followers from around the nation, but geo-targeted in the entire state of Montana. So I was able to see what my friends were eating for lunch. I was able to find out about the drama across the street. I mean, I knew everything about my neighbors, and it became kind of like almost like a real-time police scanner.
Oh my
and I became
gosh.
almost more valuable than the news outlets. I became, more like a beacon of information for, beyond just, this thing evolved beyond just party flyers and just promoting an event.
Right,
I mean, this became more of a very valuable resource. And during that time back in Montana, the college that I was living near had a horrible reputation. In fact, our city was, impolitely titled the rape capital of Montana.
Ouch.
Because some football players were up to no good, a lot of roofies and a lot of girls being taken advantage of. And this was a horrible, horrible reputation that got wind of, was picked up by TMZ and Time Magazine. I mean, it just got way too out of control. And all the while, like, here I am looking at this, stream of people through my Facebook account. And I'm like, these people aren't that bad. We're just, we're a good state. We're good people. And, so I started to use this tool as a way to promote the benefits of living in Montana and try to push against the influx of bad news that was coming. It got to the point where I started doing these campaigns and rallies to raise awareness and really give foundations like the YWCA a platform to stand on, to where they could get the word out that this is a safe place that they could go to in case they're being abused. After all was said and done, before I moved to Nashville, where I'm currently at, I decided to give this entire platform and all my social media accounts to the YWCA so they could continue their ventures. But it just evolved from, hacking to promote. It evolved into making a dramatic impact on the entire state.
That's wild. That's a crazy story, man. I found it very interesting, because your background, I know you as your DJ background, your radio background, and then and just looking things up on you, I came across that speech and I started to watch it, but like I said, something happened that distracted me, and then I didn't finish watching it. And then in briefly asking you, you kind of mentioned to me what it was, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to talk about that.
Now you see, okay, now you kind of see where I am today versus back then, and I'm actually glad I was able to rehearse it in front of you, because I was really nervous during that TED Talk. I was a little embarrassed, actually, so I think I may have communicated my story a little clearer on your show than I did on TED Talk. So thank you for allowing me that opportunity.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So let's talk DJ equipment technology. I mean, from when you and I started, I started with a realistic turntable and my mom and dad's little home stereo. It was hilarious. I had one realistic turntable, my realistic mixer, and then you remember those little stereo sets that had a little turntable on top, and it had the radio and the cassette deck, So I said, there's got to be a way. They had RCA plugs in the back, and I said, there's got to be a way to hook this up. And it was quite hilarious because I didn't understand the concept of in and out when hooking things up. And so I kept just trial and error, trying to plug things in the back, and it was weird, and I couldn't figure it out. And then one day, I don't know how I discovered it, but on the little turntable, if you remember, they had kind of like these little springs on them, on each corner.
Yes.
And so I kind of just looked underneath, and I started lifting it up, and I saw RCA plugs under there. And I said, okay, so let me try to take this thing off. And I tried to take the turntable off, but it wouldn't come off. It wouldn't unscrew completely. So I was just able to lift it up just enough to get the little cables disconnected, and then I ran the RCA cable from my mixer to that, and I was able to get it to work that way. So that's and mind you, that turntable did not have a pitch control. Okay, so I started messing around like that, and it was hilarious. And I look back at that and I think about, man, how much we have evolved.
Well, think about how resourceful you were. I mean, you were taking normal everyday appliances and mastering it into what you chose to do with it. I mean, DJs evolved from, just the most rudimental pieces of technology, and now we're so spoiled. We're so spoiled.
Right.
Everything is just widely available, but we still have that, that feeling of accomplishment when we were able to take the, big old speakers from our mom's house and stuff them into the back of our truck so we could have bass competitions, and just rewiring these little cables. I mean, all these little tricks and hacks and ways of being able to, manipulate average everyday equipment has really turned us into who we are today. And it continues. I mean, even though it's getting simpler and we're getting more spoiled, we're still finding ways to make the technology work for us.
Exactly. And that's something that you are really good at, because it seems like your hacking ability has now taken you to the next level when it comes to what is now called Crate Hackers. Your joint venture.
Yeah, it all
with
kind of
Joe
comes
Bunn.
full circle.
Yeah.
It comes full circle. It really does. It's amazing to think about how that TED Talk, transformed into what this is. I mean, Crate Hackers is. I mean, shall I tell the audience? Shall I explain how that works?
Please do. Please do.
It was just made out of absolute boredom. I mean, I was, done with the live streaming during quarantine. I wasn't making any money off of it all. So I needed to figure out some ways to just keep my brain active during this lockdown.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and she's like, "Hey, honey, I built a website for my bookstore." I'm like, hold up, wait, Mom, you're almost 80. You built a website? And she said, "Yeah, try it out." And she's a little Wix.com website. And I was like, whoa, so hold on. If my mom can do this at that age, and she doesn't know how to, change the 12 o'clock flashing on a VHS player, there's something there. So I dive in, and I always had this little concept in my head of delivering playlists, but super detailed playlists that come in handy for mix shows or performances. And I threw together this website. It was originally called perfectdjplaylists.com. And it was a big mouthful, and I think I may have shown it to you in its early months. But it was after that I met with Joe Bunn again, who again, had it not been for this whole PVDJ takeover, he never would have picked up the phone call. But he looked at the website and he's like, for one, the website needs to be rebuilt again. We need to start over again. For two, you need to change the name. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa. Really? All this hard work? And he said, no, put it under our platform. We're going to go ahead and put this into the DJ's vault, and we're going to create a cart system to where people can buy easy. So the monetization value with Wix versus what he had was just like, it was a no-brainer. I had to go work on his side. But again, I'm stuck with this, what do I change the name to? The name is, and I literally was getting sick to my stomach because we were coming up on a rollout. We were going to present this to a webinar and share with people. But all the while I'm like, we don't have a name for this yet. And I mean, my girlfriend's just like, literally holding me on the couch, and I'm going through anxiety. I'm like, I don't know what to name this thing. I have this concept in my head. And she's like, just sleep on it. And I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
I just was so nervous. Woke up, hopped in the shower, threw on a cold shower. And at that moment, it just kind of came to me. Duh. Hackers. Hackers. I mean, what more of a intriguing name is that? When you think hackers, you think about, shortcuts. You think about, finding ways to make things easier, almost a little mysterious, a little dark in a way. And that was intentional. I mean, I really wanted to get people, what is this? Are these people doing something illegal? We all know that I'm not, now that you know that it's out. But really, had I not changed the name to Hackers, I never would have had this growing support base of people who are really getting into this website. It's for what all intents and purposes, what I ended up doing during this quarantine was I simply surrounded myself around people who A, love music, and B, love to hack. And when you have that powerful incubator of people who are really bored and have nothing else to do at this point, we're all in the same boat. We were able to develop some real game-changing techniques that level up your DJ experience. I'm not going to try and sell it, but I'm just going to give you a little bow on the end of it. This is the beginning of what's going to be even larger, because the more hackers we bring into the room, the quicker your crates are going to get organized, the quicker your music is going to be delivered, and we cannot wait to roll out the next version, which is coming up pretty quick. So
very quick. Now, it's a very powerful tool for mobile DJs, especially for any DJ for that matter. Nightclub DJs, mobile DJs. It's very, very powerful. When you first showed it to me, at first I didn't understand it. When you sent me the website, I'm looking at it and then you kind of started to explain it to me, and I was like, yeah, this is good stuff, And then I see that you got teamed up with Joe Bunn. I said, that's awesome. That's great. And you guys make the announcement that you're going to unveil it, and Joe Bunn is promoting it. And I said, well, I got to see my boys, Aaron and Joe. They're going to be chatting us. I want to see what's going on here. And I get the Zoom link, and I remember popping in a little early. I'm usually pretty early on stuff. And I can't get in, and I'm thinking, man, something's wrong with the link. What's going on? No, you guys broke Zoom.
Yeah, we broke Zoom. Yeah, we got too many people on the call.
Too many people on the call, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And I'm sending messages to Joe and to you. I was like, I can't get in. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then I go, man, they gotta have it on Facebook. So I go to the DJ's vault, and boom, there it is. And then it just took off. And I've seen Joe's Facebook, video streams. And he usually gets a lot of people, but that day it just took off. And
well, we discussed a pain point with a lot of these DJs. The DJ's Vault, for those that don't know, is really good for helping build your business and really look under the hood of multi-ops. But when it comes to the music, that's one thing that Joe left out. He intentionally wanted to focus on the business side. When I came across with the music side, I think that's why he had more people, because really, not everybody wants to be a full-fledged, have numerous different markets and a bunch of other DJs. They just want to play music, and they want to play it well, and they want to learn shortcuts. That's, I think, why it really took off.
But man, the beauty of it is what it entails. I mean, it entails an easy way of cleaning up your crates, getting rid of duplicate songs that we all have. I mean, I know that I have probably like 70 copies of Beyonce's, song, God, I even forgot the name of it now.
Probably Single Ladies. Everyone has
ladies. There we go. I have like, 30 of those. I have like 100 Bruno Mars tracks, and it's like, I mean, and I'm like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff, This makes it a lot easier. Not only that, but you're able to find out the keys to your songs to make it, a lot easier for you. It cleans up the quality of the songs that you've downloaded, whether it's, those people that do it from YouTube or whatever, and others that grab them from, a certain record pools that maybe the qualities are not as good. I mean, it's just an amazing tool. And we're definitely going to have the link down here on the description. So DJs definitely check that out. And
I'm so blown away. And it's become a fun little project to where I've actually been able to sustain and financially and survive during all these tough times. I mean, with all of this input, with all this inspiration from the community, it just keeps me waking up each morning. I mean, it really is not a one-man effort. We've got hundreds of hackers who are chiming in with input and helping create these playlists where I want to try to, if anything, if I had one mission in life, I would want to try and make the DJ more open source, more than it already is. I think you recall back in your day when you were, bringing your crates of records into these clubs, some DJs would be so arrogant, and in my opinion, very arrogant, to put a white label on
Yep.
the song, or maybe just even, with Serato, just take out the artist and title so that
Yeah.
the audience can't recognize.
Yep.
To me, that's bogus, because number one, you're playing somebody else's music to begin with.
Right.
You didn't produce that song. Maybe you did, but you took at least the core original song. And there's a arrogance, I believe, to the DJ community where they don't want to share.
Yeah.
They just don't want to share. And I think to myself, well, okay, back to that day when the friend of mine gave me a cassette, he was going to share. I wasn't able to, learn from him. But again, I was stuck with that feeling of, I need to learn this. I need to learn this. I need to learn this on my own. This is scary.
Right.
I don't believe that needs to happen for the DJ. I want to be able to give all of my information, all the years that I've picked up, tips and tricks along the way. I want to give it to you. I don't want to spoon feed you necessarily. You still have to, give us your flavor and your personality and all that. But that's so important to me, to share my information, because I'm not getting any younger. I want to live vicariously through these DJs.
Yeah.
And really feel like I had something to do with it. But even more importantly, you've got these DJs who have the spark. You can tell they have that personality, that they'll make a great DJ someday, rather than have them go through the tumultuous process of tearing apart turntables to try and find the RCA chord, from having to, grab music from here and there and just guess if it's going to work. I'm essentially giving you all the tools you need to get started today. All of my years of education are going straight into these weekly editions that I'm giving these DJs, not because I want you to play like me. I don't want you to be a carbon copy of me, but I just want you to springboard into new levels of inspiration and learn which songs are compatible with others faster. Exactly. That's the whole purpose. I just want to be able to bring these pieces of knowledge to you much faster.
That's an awesome quality that I love about you, because you're a very giving person, and that was one of the things that I think why you and I got along well so quickly, when we first met, because you also are a man of your word. We talked about doing this mix show. I had just gotten hired, literally, I think probably like about 6 months prior to the PVDJ takeover, and to do some freelance work for the Highway Vibe, Highway Drive, and Highway Country. And so the owner, there was a new owner that had taken over the radio station. He says, listen, one of the reasons why I hire you is because of your radio marketing, promotions, ideas and stuff. And he goes, because of your talent in DJing. He goes, I want to eventually develop a mix show that we can sell to nightclubs here in Las Vegas and have them promote it and have it be the sponsors to it. And I was like, sure, let's make it happen. Right. So he says, develop an idea, develop a concept. But, I was busy with my own business, Elite DJs and event planning and stuff, and a few other projects that I was working on. And I'm all like, I'm not going to have the time to produce, a 4-hour mix show, every week. That means having to do, mixes and stuff. And then the way they had it broken up, unfortunately, they had 4 commercial breaks. So they were short mixes, longer mixes and stuff like that. And I was like, that's going to take up a lot of my time.
And that's when you opened it up to DJs like me, right?
Exactly. When I went over there and I met you guys, I met you, Nate, Jessica. I said, these are the guys that I need to help me out to get this project off the ground.
That's how it all started. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I reached out to all of you. You were the first one to say, I'm down. Let's do it. And after we left Las Vegas, I reached out to everybody. I reached out to Nate and everything, but everybody was like, yeah, I'm interested. We'll chat. But you were the one that said, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's go. Boom. And next thing you know, it started to take off.
I mean, I look at it like, wait, I've just been given an opportunity to have a mix show in Las Vegas. I can understand why nobody wanted to jump on it, but all due respect to anybody who was invited, but I think it was just because I had my own studio back at the house. I had all the knowledge and the know-how. For an average person to make a mixtape or a mixed radio show, for that matter, it does require some skill and a lot of experimentation. I'd already been doing it.
Yeah, with the others, I mean, I think that you jumped on it because you understood the concept of radio, and the others, I think they kind of like didn't understand it because like even though I was giving them an hour, it was broken up into little segments. So,
Right,
I mean,
right.
I think that it was because of their schedules as well. I think it was going to be like
Yeah,
time consuming for them to do an 8-minute mix and then a 15-minute mix and then a 10-minute
right.
mix and then another, 20-minute. It was just kind
It's
of
a
like,
lot of work.
yeah,
It's a lot of work.
it is. People think that, oh, that sounds simple. It's not.
No, and you also got to consider back when I was deciding if I'm going to be a DJ, I'm going to be a DJ of all trades. A lot of those guys were mobile DJs who were
Hmm.
really busy in their own fields doing what they needed to do.
Hmm.
I'm sure they wanted it. I'm sure a lot of DJs would give an opportunity to DJ, in Vegas or on the radio in Vegas. It just requires a little bit more expertise and know-how in the radio side of it to be able to lock it down. But that's how we jived. I mean, I was able to get on it pretty fast, and
Yeah, no,
look
it
where
was good.
it took us.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, pandemic strikes. No, actually, first things first, we get another program director change, and then they decide to take it down. They want to go a different route, so we stop doing the mix show. But then they come back and they say, you know what, we need the nightclub business, but this time we want to go a hip hop thing, and we're not really a hip hop station, but we need to get Dre's nightclub because they're giving us money, so we need to give them some. So then I'm like, all right, so I start doing some hip hop mixes and stuff, and then the pandemic kicks in, just as
Yeah.
they started to talk about bringing back the full blown show. So then all the clubs closed down, so there was no sponsorship dollars there. Now,
Yeah.
how many radio stations are you on right now?
I've taken myself back quite a bit. About a year ago, I was broadcasting for my home state back in Montana. I was doing the Vegas mix show. Currently, I'm just doing the Saturday night mix show in Nashville here, simply because I want to still remain relevant and I still want to have that feel. But, you got to consider I've been in radio for 26 years now, and I'm slowly starting to phase myself out. And I told myself, if I ever get fired, I'm never going back. But somehow they keep me on.
Yeah.
But I just had a talk with my program director 3 weeks ago and said, listen, I've got to make a decision. I can't keep, spreading myself out too thin. I'm going to just host your Saturday night mix show just so I can stay on it and say I'm still in radio. But it's going to be difficult to say where I'm going to be with radio in the next few years, or let alone where radio is going to be in a few years.
Exactly.
It's constantly getting pummeled.
Yeah.
It's constantly getting pummeled. I really, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
It's, I don't know. I have a hard time getting excited about that industry lately. I don't know why. These fresh-eyed people who walk in with a ton of energy, who are just like, I want to be in radio, I want to do this now, but what does it take? Here's my resume, I'll give anything. And having that same spunk and personality that I had, back then, I knew there was massive opportunity. Now, if somebody were to come to me today and say they want to work in radio, I don't know, man.
It's tough.
I don't know. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be diverse. If you're going to be a radio DJ, be more than just that.
Yeah.
It's really challenging to get amped about that industry now.
And it's funny that you say that because my first radio gig was at Power 106 here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And there was, an amazing time. And I know DJs that I worked with that were on air that unfortunately didn't evolve, you know, and they stayed the course as thinking that what they were doing back in the day was going to stay relevant.
Right.
And unfortunately, with not just, technology, the internet and everything has changed, Yeah. And I was one of the lucky ones because I went from being on air and jumping behind the scenes, learning marketing, promotions and stuff like that, event marketing. So that helped me out to stay in radio. But, my on-air days was short-lived. I mean, I was on air for 7 years, and I did well for myself. And then still now, little by little, I'm kind of back on with these Vegas stations. But now things are changing. Now we got online radio. So right now, I'm on the Radio Music Vault on Fridays with a 1-hour show, doing an 80s flashback mix. And I'm getting approached from a couple of other companies to do more online things. Now, is that something that you're experiencing as well?
Well, look at exactly what you're doing right now.
Exactly.
You're doing exactly what you would be doing on a morning talk show.
Right.
This is inside your house. You've got a studio right there where, again, you had to put a a Marty antenna out towards the nearest mountain to
Right.
get a connection. I mean,
Right.
look where you are now. I mean, am I going the same direction? I think we're forced to. It's
Yeah.
amazing to see how the DJ community has evolved so fast, even with this pandemic. Thank God
Yes.
for it, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I mean, all due respect to the, you know, the hard news that we're dealing with, for a lot of people, this is a chance to really retool and refocus and to get
Exactly.
even more resourceful. Back to the days where you were trying to rewire that turntable, you're now trying to figure out a way to rewire your camera and your live stream. It all is, it's baked
Exactly.
inside of you. You've done this from the very beginning. Where you're like MacGyver. You're the
Yeah.
MacGyver of DJs, and
Trust me, it was, man. Remember when we first started streaming, and I was going nuts because I wanted to figure out a way to do 2 camera angles and everything, and and then I reached out to you because I saw you were doing it. I was like, "How you doing?" I said, "But I don't want to spend money. I said, I don't want to spend a dime." I said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm spending a dime right now." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Then you just have to do the research, and like you say, it's like going back and pulling that turntable apart and figuring out how to make it work.
That's exactly it.
And I think that this pandemic, like you say, maybe kind of was a blessing for DJs because it triggered us to do something different, to get
Think
out of
the
the
box,
norm of what we
Right.
were doing, and it has opened up a new platform for us to give us even more exposure, and for us to share our talents. And it's like I decided to do this DJ to DJ podcast because I said, well, what do I have that I can share with other DJs? And I said, well, I have a knowledge and experience, my radio background, and I know a lot of amazingly talented DJs with great background stories that have developed an amazing, profitable, platform for themselves. And why not bring these people to DJs that are starting off today and share their stories to help others get inspired? And that's where
I'll tell you,
this all
man.
came out.
When I saw this concept of your show, I thought to myself, "You go, boy," because this is exactly what I was thinking about doing before Crate Hackers. I really wanted to get DJs on a chat, talk to some old radio legends, talk to club DJs, and just pick their brain for a few hours. But look what you're doing, and that's an attribute to the entire community. So you're paying it back and you're paying it forward. I love this.
That's what it's all about, man. Just sharing the experiences with others. I mean, and it was funny because it actually started because of my son. Because when this started, I asked him, I said, "Boy, you want to learn how to DJ?" He's all like, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, "All right, let's get at it." And I started teaching him. And then he said, "You know what? My friends want to learn too. Do you think you could teach them?" And I said, "Yeah." And his best buddies, they're 4 brothers, and they actually have 3 brothers and 1 sister, and those are his best friends, and their father happens to be my best friend over here. So I said, "Hey, man," I go, "ask the boys if they want to learn how to DJ." And we had a conversation with them, and they're all like, "Yeah, we're into it." So we literally did a Zoom class, and I taught them, along with my son, how to beat mix the same way that I learned back in early 1980s.
Awesome.
The exact same
no
way.
waveforms.
No waveforms, zero,
ear.
just using your ear. And boom. And then real fast we transitioned to waveforms. And
awesome.
they got it fast. All of them beat mixing now. And so I said, "Wow," I said, "that'd be cool if I can put something cool together." And I started thinking I'll do tutorials, but I thought there's a lot of tutorials out there. I said, "You know what? Let me pull my connections. Let me talk to the people."
I think you need to realize also that, it's not about the numbers. It's not about the views. With those kids that you've taken aside and helped with, I mean, who knows? You could be building the next Aaron. That one kid could have had that seed planted right there. Maybe he never talked to you again, go somewhere else. And all the while in the back of their head, "Hey, how did he do that?
Right.
What was his method? I've got to learn this." So, don't be too hung up on the fact that you are, trying to pollinate yourself out to numerous platforms. One-on-one connections, doing exactly what you're doing right now, is going to build a major inspiration for a lot of these kids. And I'd love to see them grow up because of what you've done.
Well, I'm telling you, I always have my business hat on too, because I said, well, I got a group of kids that I'm going to teach, and I'm going to prime them, and they're going to be my teen division, my
That's
elite
it.
DJs and event planning. So
Yep.
there's always a method to my madness, you know.
I smell what you're cooking.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's.
Well, thank you for having me on the show today, man. This was so cool.
Oh, brother, thank you, man. I mean, I had to have you on. I mean, I knew I was going to talk to you eventually, and I reached out to you early on, but you were in the middle of launching Crate Hackers, so
Yep.
you know, it was a little bit, you know, ago that I reached out, but I knew that you were busy. But thank God that we made it work, brother, and I appreciate you for taking the time and sitting here with talking to me. And so, what's next for you right now before we close off? What do you I mean, obviously we got the new version of Crate Hackers going on. What else are you working on?
I think scaling back a little bit more, being a little more choosy with my events. If I know that Crate Hackers is going to help supplement my income to some degree, I can be able to say no a lot more. I do miss performing in front of an audience. That will return, but I'm going to choose which ones I want to perform at. And I think putting myself dead center in the middle of Nashville is the most important thing to me right now. I live on the outskirts. I do live in Nashville, but you know, about a 15-minute drive. I'm moving to Music Row. I'm going to go ahead and you know, set up shop there, and literally a stone's throw away from all the entertainment. I'm going to get close to the record labels. I'm going to try and build relationships. I'd love to be able to see this kind of, you know, manifest today, and then maybe join you for, you know, a few years later on your ultra huge, amazing following, you know, superstar show, which is going to happen for you too. It'd be fun to watch this video and see what happens, you know, 5-10 years from now, because more than anything, I'm going to take a back seat and, you know, encourage, develop, monetize, inspire, maybe a little less DJing from me. You know, I can see myself maybe another 10 years of actually performing. But at that point, I'd like to move into a position that.
Yeah, no, my goal right now is I'm trying to work less, make more money. You know what I mean? And I'm looking for different ways to make that happen. So eventually we'll get there. You know, we'll find the right formula to make that happen. I mean, I speak for myself. I'm no spring chicken, but I still love and have a passion for music and for DJing and producing, re-editing, and doing all that fun stuff. So, I mean, I think I'm going to be doing that for a long time. But there's a lot of different avenues out there that we can help others to grow, to you know, flourish.
Look where it got us, you and me.
Exactly.
Stick with it, man. We'll be, you know, never forget where you started. Always bring along the people who helped you get where you are. If you start making a ton of money, I will be moving in with you.
I'll build a back house. How's that sound?
There you go. Sounds good.
We'll put you in the studio there.
Fair enough. It's all I need.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And once again, for those of you guys watching, if you enjoyed this talk with Aaron Traylor, make sure you hit that like button. Of course, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, get notified so that you know exactly when we have another amazing talent. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.